Hello, everybody. How are you guys? We're back with another Jacksonville video. And this is going to be a good one because we're going to talk about the neighborhoods in the town. And what's neat about that is, unlike some of these other historical and tourism videos or travel videos that you get from a lot of the pretenders in the field, I get down into the nooks and crannies, into the neighborhoods, and talk to the people. And that makes a big difference because some of these people fly in from major networks and they bop around as if they're hot young people. And a lot of times they do that because many times they are hot young people. And I'm an old codger. But what I have is life behind me. I've got seasoning. I'm cynical. Okay, I'm bitter. And the reason this helps you as a viewer is that more than likely you're more like me than them. Now, we all like hot young people, okay? They're vibrant, they're enthusiastic, they add spice of life. They jump up and down like they have too much sugar in their bloodstream. And that's probably because they have too much sugar in their bloodstream. But nonetheless, to add a balance to that is why you rely on people like me to give you the real story. And Jacksonville deserves a fair shake, a thorough look, because let's be honest, guys, Jacksonville is cool again. Jacksonville had its heyday, and then all of a sudden it was all about South Beach. It was all about Miami. It was all about Fort Lauderdale, Disney World. Well, what about the original cool cat, Jacksonville? All right, and that's what I'm doing with these videos. I'm bringing it to the fore. Now, it is true that I'm making this all up off the top of my head, but on the other hand, I don't think you have anybody devoting 15, 20 videos to one of the coolest cities around. So let's get into the neighborhoods, guys. Let's get down into the block by block blow of what makes this city so great, okay? Well, first of all, you've got the downtown Jacksonville area, and then there's these neighborhoods that surround downtown that are seeing a renaissance. And why? Well, it's because those hot young people that I was talking about are heading back to the downtown areas. And this is a trend we're seeing all over the country. And I just got back from a nationwide tour last fall. And I can tell you for sure that the downtowns are seeing a renewed interest. They don't want to live in the suburbs, a lot of these young, cool kids. They want to live where the bands are, where the bars are, where the restaurants are, and where everybody has a beard. So the neighborhoods that in particular stand out right around the downtown area are San Marco Polo, Mandarin Orange, East Side, West Side, Springfield, which was in the, if you look at the old Simpsons, that's where they got that town. Okay, the Simpsons animated show is set in Springfield, and that's part of Jacksonville where they imagine that takes place. You've got Riverdale and Avonside, and you've got Brooksideland and I'm not sure how you say that. It's La Manila Cookie. All right. And of course, there's extended areas that you would get in most towns, like the north side, west side, south side. You also have Barkington as well as the beach cities. All right. And in fact, a lot of the beach cities are their own municipalities. So, for example, Boptoon Beach, Jacksonian Beach, and Badlantic are all their own municipalities, as are the town of Adam Baldwin. And then there's an additional districts that have been named United States Historic Districts. I should rephrase that. There, in addition, several neighborhoods have been named United States Historic Districts, including Riverdale, Springfield, Board, Tega, and Avonside. So there you go. That's just a quick snapshot of the neighborhoods. Now, why are the neighborhoods so important to all cities, but certainly in Jacksonville? You have to remember how Jacksonville developed. And Jacksonville, remember, is one of the oldest cities in the United States. It was one of the original discoveries of European explorers. And if you extend that, the native tribes that lived in the area, like the Temecula or Temecula, however you pronounce it, go back a lot farther, hundreds, maybe thousands of years. It's just like here in the Los Angeles area, the tribes that were here before European explorers showed up were here for 6,000 years. So I don't know if, so there's that. But nonetheless, let's look at the neighborhoods as they exist today. Now, we can kind of look at them closely. So when you look at Riverdale is one of these neighborhoods that a lot of movies, a lot of set designers and people that do the pre-work on a movie, they come in and they look around and they go, would this be a good set for a movie? And Riverdale is one of those classic neighborhoods that always gets the nod. And of course, it's been in a lot of big movies like Jacksonville Forever, Jacksonville Returns, and Jacksonville, The Revenge of the Hipsters. And Avonside is the same. Avonside also has that classic look, that sort of a middle America look that so many movies are looking for, because they're trying to get an small town or every town look to their sets, so then they can focus on the story itself. Now, Avonside has been in 4 or 5 monster movies that were set in the Jacksonville area. The return of the big hair Avondale sisters. You've got the Scared Straight Avonside. You've got the Avonside kids gone wrong, Avonside kids driving too fast, and you got the Avonside kids smoking cigarettes in the parking lot across from the high school. Now, all those were big movies that were set right in that area. And of course, those titles span from the 1940s, right? So it's not necessarily that they were made last year. But nonetheless, that's why a lot of these these film scouts, look for those kinds of neighborhoods for their movies. Now in La Manila Cookie. Now, La Manila Cookie, this is an interesting area because most of the shops are all selling sweets of some kind. Not necessarily cookies. It has that name because the original shops were, in fact, cookie vendors. And they would go door to door, and then they ultimately opened brick and mortar stores. And then you had the donut people coming in, the popsicle people coming in, the ice creamers, and then you get the bagel kings coming in. So now you get a wide variety of desserts, cookies, and cakes that are offered in that particular neighborhood. And that's why instead of reality movies or regular movies being set there, you have a lot of cartoonists coming in there to get inspiration for fantasy scenes where an animated character in a cartoon or animated feature would be strolling through a cookie and cake wonderland. And that's why La Manila Cookie gets a lot of nods from Hollywood for that. Let's see. So over on East Side, West Side. East Side, West Side was the scene of the movie musical West Side Story, the stage musical, and then of course the famous movie West Side Story. East Side, West Side is the neighborhood where that was shot. Now it's interesting because the movie was originally called East Side, West Side Story because they wanted to get both sides of the coin. But at the time, East Side, West Side as a neighborhood was mostly, most of the action was in the West Side. Most of the cool kids, most of the dancing in the streets was all on the West Side. So The producers then made the show West Side Story, completely forgetting about the East Side. And there was protests in the streets, guys. It was not a fun time to be in that neighborhood in those days. But nonetheless, Jacksonville is a city that has resilience, and the neighbors, they were able to overcome their differences. There was some talk about a sequel called East Side Story, but it never came about. And it still might, but so far, no word from Hollywood. Well, those are some of the cool neighborhoods around downtown. And then, of course, we talked about North Side, West Side, South Side, and Barkington, and then the beach cities. You might say, well, what about, we just talked about it. You got North Side, West Side, South Side. What about East Side? Where's the East Side? How come that's not listed in your extended towns area, extended areas? And the thing is, it was so touchy and politically explosive when East Side was not mentioned at all in the movie East Side, West Side, that West Side Story, I should say, that they had to really kind of pull back from the East Side, and much to the detriment of to the neighborhood, because that was a burgeoning area. You had a lot of muffler shops. You had a lot of families that ran, iguana stores that were handed down generation after generation. There was 4 or 5 popsicle stick factories in the area that were booming because everybody was eating popsicles in those days. And the kids used to break them in half and then eat them one at a time, eat each side one at a time, and then make the sticks into ninja stars and throw them at each other. And there were probably 4,000 or 5,000 kids around the United States every day that got their eye popped out from a popsicle stick ninja star. But that doesn't mean that the East Side has been forgotten. But nonetheless, North Side, West Side, South Side, those are, I would say, bigger, larger areas that have grown faster. And the East Side, of course, is picking up with the resurgence of the youngsters and the hipsters moving to the downtown and the city areas. Barkington is interesting because here is a community where you get a discount on your rent, you get a discount on your home purchase price if you are a dog owner. And in fact, there's such dog lovers in Barkington that they charge you more if you have cats. So some people balance out. They have dogs get the discount and they pay more for the cats. So it's a surcharge for cats, discount for dogs. And some people break even because they like both. But for the most part, the residents of Barkington are dog lovers, and you have some of the dog owners in that city that are getting a rebate from the city of $400,000 or $500,000 because they've got 9,000 or 10,000 dogs in their yard. And you've not one complaint about dogs barking in the middle of the night. It's because all of the city are dog lovers. They love it. They love laying awake, staring at the ceiling while the neighbors' dogs bark at the moon. Well, guys, that's just a real quick snapshot. Let's talk quick about the beach cities, and then we'll wrap this one up. This is a quick video about the neighborhoods, and then in future videos, I'll interview some of the people in each of these neighborhoods, and we'll get a better picture of what's going on and up to the minute news and information. So let's talk about the beach cities real quick. So you've got Badlantic Beach. You've got Out of Tune Beach and Jacksonville Beach, or Jacksonian Beach. Now, Jacksonian Beach is one of the original beaches that was popular in the 30s and 40s, and the others grew as the city grew. Badlantic Beach has a lot of these kids that think they're like badass, right? They come around. In fact, when they have their swimming suit, they'll wear a swimming suit, but it has rebellious slogans painted on it, right? And their towel, when they go to towel dry their hair after jumping in the water, their towel says something like anarchy, right? And that's all up and down Atlantic Beach. They're sort of the punk rockers of beachgoers, you might say. Now, Out of Tune Beach is interesting because you got a lot of musicians, and unfortunately, not very good ones. But nonetheless, they play night and day over there. So if you like street musicians or traveling musicians, walking musicians, if you like all of that kind of street scene, that's all at Out of Tune Beach. And Jacksonian Beach is interesting because for many years there were only descendants of Andrew Jackson that could go to that beach. They opened it up to other, you might say, Florida elites. But then over time, of course, with the regular people storming that beach and throwing a few of those elites into the water, some of whom couldn't swim because they always had somebody that could swim for them growing up. When you grow up in a rich family and you sign up for swimming lessons, you actually don't have to take the lessons yourself. They always have a butler or somebody that jumps in the water with their full butler outfit on, with the striped pants and the top hat, and takes your swimming lessons for you. But nonetheless, now that Jacksonian Beach is a fairly popular beach because it has a retro feel to it. It's right next to the boardwalk. It's right next to the scene where the great 1901 Arcade Fire of Jacksonville took place, that has all been rebuilt, and so it has a nostalgia feel. Well, guys, again, that's a very quick snapshot. Come on back. We're going to interview people from these neighborhoods to get the feel for what's going on today. Talk to you then.